Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here and welcome back to the railway. Today I'm reviewing some brand new models from EFE Rail. I used to think that the EFE Rail models were a complete waste of time, frankly. And that's because many of them were frightfully expensive, not worth the money, and a lot of them were produced using older toolings, which meant that despite the incredibly high price of the models, they still didn't stand up to newer models at all well. Well, I don't know whether EFE Rail or Kerno, let's be honest, they are responsible for most of these models, have been listening to feedback or what, but they really do seem to be turning that around recently. So over the past year, we have started to see some actually new tooled models come into the EFE Rail range, the LSWR van and the Bully boosters, just to name a couple. And these models were not dreadfully complex or detailed or anything, but at the very least they were produced to modern standards, so they didn't come out looking dated like a lot of the EFE Rail models did. The prices have also started to become much more realistic, which is also really good to see. Well, today's new model seems to feature all of these upgrades and improvements, and the models themselves are these. These are the Bloater fish vans by Kerno, or EFE Rail. So these are Great Western wagons, as you can see, and it's actually a really smart time to be releasing Great Western rolling stock, because we've seen tons of Great Western steam locos released over the past couple of years, and there's also lots more announced and on the way too. The price of these wagons is also really reasonable. So the full RRP is £29.95, and at the retailers you can pick these up for £25.45. Now compare this with another recently announced box van in 00 scale, the Bachmann Powell van. As you can see, this is much more expensive, and at the retailers it's £29.70, which is almost £5 more expensive. Considering how much of a larger van these are than the Powell van, that seems really reasonable. So you might start thinking, well, perhaps these are basic budget models then. But looking at the specs, that doesn't seem to be the case. They've got features such as sprung buffers, which suggests that this is going to be a more complex and premium model. So really looking forward to seeing what these are like. There's 3 different versions of the bloater that EFE Rail have produced from 3 different diagrams, and if you're interested in the range, I do have affiliate links down in the description for you. But it would seem that EFE Rail have come up with a really efficient way of producing these at a reasonable price, and I know a lot of people really appreciate that, myself included. So can't wait to see what these are like. Are they any good? They're not that expensive, but are they worth buying nonetheless? Let's find out. So as you can see, I actually decided to buy 2 of these bloaters. First of all, because they're so reasonable. I thought, well, it's only going to be about 50 quid for 2, why not? Also because there is a lot of variation in this range. They've got lots of different running numbers, which gives you some variation in your train, and I'm sure if they did another batch of these later on, we'd see even more. But mainly I just wanted to show off that variety. Now, I think with these 2, I've got 2 of the same version. I think we'll have to see. Maybe I should have gotten one of the sort of BR variants or something like that, but I wanted 2 that would match together quite nicely. For now though, enough waffling about these. Let's actually take a close look and see what these are like. So the first one, let me show you the end of the box. This one is E87057. It is the Great Western 10-ton bloater, number 2168 in the Great Western brown. They've got a couple of different Great Western liveries and also a BR maroon livery for these as well. Okay, not had one of these out yet, not even seen one in the flesh with my own eyes. So really looking forward to this. So I can feel we've got an accessory pack of some sort. Not a whole lot, just some buffer beam details by the looks of it. So if you want to fit this pipework, you can do. Okay, let's take a look at the model itself then, see how this comes apart. Yeah, it's a large van. Really was surprised to see such a reasonably priced van come from EFE Rail of all companies. Look at that though. Ooh, yeah, that's not bad. So wooden bodied, obviously, and I think the finish does reflect that. Yeah, that looks pretty decent. Okay, let's lift this up. I'll try and do it from the ends, I think. Okay. So it's reasonably heavy as well. Obviously it's just a van, so it doesn't need to weigh an absolute ton, but yeah, the weight of this does seem to be absolutely fine. And yeah, this looks great, doesn't it? You can tell that this has been tooled recently. Yeah, the moulding quality is pretty high. The underframe in particular looks amazing. It really does look good, and I'll show you a lot of this up close and personal in just a second. Underneath, wow, yeah, we've got full detail underneath as well. Really surprising for the price, and pretty complex couplings as well. We've got kinematics here, which are probably necessary due to the long wheelbase of the wagon. So yeah, that is really, really impressive for just under £25 compared with what else is available new. This seems really, really impressive. So well done, EFE Rail. This looks good. Let's have a look at the other one then. Bring this one in. So I think it's pretty much the same one. I perhaps should have got one from a different diagram or something, but I wanted to get two of the same just to show off the fact that a couple of numbers are available. Let me show the end of the box then. So this is the next one in the range. It's E87058. Again, it's a Great Western 10-ton bloater, this time though number 2123, once again in the Great Western brown. Also, buying a couple of them allows me to get a better idea of the quality. Obviously, if there's an issue with one and not on the other, then yeah, you can kind of get a better idea of whether issues are widespread, although I must say I didn't notice any problems with the first. But equally, if this one is built well like the first was, then again that will suggest that the entire range are good quality. So there we go, very similar looking of course. And here it is up close. So yeah, decent looking vans, not the most complex in the world, but everything it needs to have seems to be here for the most part. I will feed back with a bit more detail on that in just a second. But yeah, colour me impressed. For 25 quid, this is a large piece of rolling stock which seems to have a lot of detail on it. More info on that in just a second, but for now, here's a bit of background on the bloaters in real life. So these are technically pre-grouping vans, as they started being built from 1916. Although of course they did survive into the grouping era under the Great Western, and even beyond that into the BR era post-nationalisation. This model represents the first version of the bloater, the S8, which had the louvres, and they also had gas lighting fitted, which you can see up on the roofs. EFE Rail have also produced the later designs of this van, known as the S9 and S10, with the shell roof ventilators and differences such as different brake designs, etc. The vans worked mainly around Cornwall and Pembrokeshire near the major fishing ports there, and they were reserved for the transportation of fish, the smell of which making them unsuitable for carrying anything else, thank goodness. Today, plenty of the bloaters can still be seen at heritage railways. So there it is, up close and personal for you, the brand new EFE Rail Bloater fish van. And I have to say, I think Kerno are really upping their game these days, because this is fantastic. It's not the most detailed or complex wagon in the world, but it looks great, it's well built, extremely competently designed, and at such a reasonable price, I really would not fault this. So in terms of construction, yeah, it is quite plasticky. The body is obviously plastic, and I believe the chassis is as well. Understandable, I think, given the price. Although I think there must be a pretty heavy weight inside the van, because the weight of the van itself is pretty good at 55 to 56 grams, depending on which one you're looking at. So not light by any means. It's also not the most complex van in the world, so it doesn't have the screw or chain link couplings for the hooks. That's a pity. The doors don't open as they do on some more premium vans, and the door handles themselves and such, these are just a part of the moulding, they're not separately fitted. Now, as awesome as it would have been to have seen these features, I don't know that you really need those features, and I'm willing to bet that a lot of people are willing to forego those extra frills in exchange for a more reasonable price, and for just a hair over £25, this is certainly a very, very reasonable price. Now, I suspected that the two wagons that I bought were the same, just with different numbers. That is actually not true. The one you can see here is a Bloater A. The other one I've got is just the Bloater, which I suspect is an earlier design. So the Bloater doesn't have the pre-fitted vacuum pipes on the buffer beams. The Bloater A does. The Bloater also has a more simplified version of the brake rigging. I assume this is the earlier brake rigging. and then the Bloater A has a more complex brake rigging. So it's not as though all of these bloaters are even the same and they've just been painted up differently and that's why they're cheaper. No, there are proper tooling variations here in the range, and even more besides what I've got here with my two vans. So again, super impressive. Let's take a look at this then. Let's talk about the decoration first of all. It's got a really good finish to it. Obviously this is not a metal bodied van, so you wouldn't be expecting a huge amount of gloss to this. But yeah, the finish is pleasing and it is on the roof as well. It looks fantastic. There's also lots of printed detail. The Great Western printing on the side all looks great. You've got quite a bit of printed detail elsewhere on the body as well. There's even the running number on the ends too. The chassis also has masses of detail on it. Look at this little gauge which has actually been printed on. Really, really impressive. And again, there's more besides that. The little brake handle here has also been separately painted. In terms of the detail, the underframe is possibly the most impressive area of the model. Here you can see are the axle boxes and the springs and such. They all look good. There's also the footboards, which are just plastic, I think, but again, all straightly fitted and very, very fine looking. And of course, as you've already seen, we've got full brake rigging represented on these models too. The buffer beams are relatively simple out of the box, although there are some pipes that you can fit additionally if you want. The buffers are made of metal and they are sprung. Look at that, that is fantastic. Very, very premium feature for an inexpensive wagon, which I like to see. And then there's also the little lamp brackets as well, which are separately fitted. That's also impressive. In terms of the bodies, these are quite simple. I don't really see any separate parts on the bodies at all, but that's not really an issue because the quality of the moulding, as you can see, is top notch, so you don't really need a lot of this to be separately fitted, and it all looks just spot on moulded as it is here. I particularly like the sort of door handles and latches and such, because just moulded as these are, they still look marvellous, don't they? But the whole body does, really. And here's a quick look at the roof furniture on this version of the model. Both of mine have this style, but there are others available in this range as well. Finally, in terms of couplings, as I've already mentioned, these are kinematic and they seem to move very, very smoothly. Not too much drooping in the NEMs either, so hopefully these will couple and work properly. We'll test that in just a second. So there you have it. It's not the level of detail by itself that is blowing me away, but it's the combination of decent detailing, very, very high quality and incredibly competitive price that has impressed me most about this. So well done, Kerno. I think this is my favourite piece of EFE rail rolling stock to date. Let's get this down onto the track and fingers crossed please that these perform exactly as they should, and I suspect they are going to. So here is today's test setup, just a simple affair today. I've gone with your classic Great Western freight locomotive, the 2800, I've not run this one for a while. Then of course I've got the bloaters ready to be coupled in the middle, and then just an ex-Great Western brake van on the back there. Now in terms of how free rolling these are, I've already filmed the test, and these wagons don't have separate bearings in the axle boxes or anything like that. Some models do, and I think it's better when models do, but it's not absolutely necessary, and obviously the models that do have the bearings tend to cost quite a bit more. These, as you can see, fared pretty well though. They went right past the signal box, both of them stopping around the curve there. So I think given the size of the wheelbase and the lack of bearings, this is absolutely fine. They are more than freewheeling enough, I think. Okay, are the couplings okay? Let's see how this goes. Let's back up the 2800, try and do this reasonably steadily. So this is a Hornby coupling up first, which seems to have struggled a little bit. The EFE couplings seem to have struggled too. Have the Oxfords coupled? Right, so no with the loco, no with the wagon to wagon, and no with the brake van. So yeah, this doesn't seem the best. Are the coupling hooks centered? Yeah, there does seem to be a bit of slop on the coupling hooks. So let's try and center those and try again. Okay, here we go. Backing up, should we try it? Well, let's not go too much quicker because you want a realistic coupling, don't you? Well, I think we've got something there. So the loco to the wagon was fine. Doesn't seem to be very good between the vans themselves, yeah. So yeah, a bit too much droop on those, so not brilliant couplings, definitely seen better. The kinematic aspect of them seems really good, but yeah, they're just refusing to couple there. I suspect they are drooping a little bit too much. Let me find an implement to lift one of them up and test that theory. So if I lift this one up a little bit, just a touch, yeah, it's just not having it, is it? Alright, we finally got it. So coupling's not the best, and obviously this is a pretty definitive test because I'm coupling two of the same model here, so it can't be blamed on the other rolling stock that I've got. Can we get this to go? Oh yeah, it has done it that time. Okay, fair enough. So coupling's not brilliant then, but how do they handle themselves around the track? Well, let's find out. Here we go. Alright, so that's the broadest curve I've got, that's 4th radius. And now we're coming into the 2nd. And it looks good to me. Yep, those kinematics are good, nice and smooth. And as a result, they stay coupled on the track, which is good. And I have to say, now that the wagons are coupled and running, they look awesome. Yeah, the detail really pops, the quality of the decoration shines through too, I think. And obviously the fact that there's no wobbling and no random uncoupling or anything like that makes them nice and convincing looking on the track too. So yeah, apart from the couplings, performance seems to be absolutely excellent. I guess the big test though is the points test, so let's set that up and see how they get on over those. Alright, so I'll just stop the brake van past the points, let's throw them open. And let's try this. Let's go at a fairly brisk pace today. Just a bit slower than they were going before. Yeah, looks perfect. That's not bad going actually, is it? For such large wheelbase wagons. They seem to be solid as a rock there, don't they? Forwards. Yeah, marvellous. Let's try it a little bit faster then, just to be extra nasty. Oops, oops. So the Oxford brake van bailed. Incredibly though, the bloaters are so stable that they were not derailed by that. Let's try that again. That was actually quite the stunt, wasn't it? I'm surprised. Look at that. Rock solid. Perfect. So very, very good. Let's have some ratings then for the all-new Bloater fish van from EFE Rail and Kerno. The level of detail for me is a 4-star, so there's a lot of impressive detailing on here. I think the brake rigging is one of the most detailed aspects of the model. We've got sprung buffers, excellent moulded detail, and the decoration is wonderful as well. It doesn't get 5-star because it's missing the couplings for the hooks. It does rely on a lot of moulded detail, good as the moulded detail is, and it doesn't have those super fancy features such as opening doors and that kind of thing. The model certainly doesn't need that, but obviously it would need that if I was going to give it 5-star. Performance, I guess I've been a little generous here and only knocking it off 1-star for the issue with the couplings. The couplings themselves do work excellently, except when actually coupling to another piece of rolling stock. I've experimented with this a little bit more and I don't really think it is the droop of the couplings that's to blame. I think it could be more the shape of the coupling hook itself, as they do seem to get stuck against other NEM couplings rather than sliding over them as they should. But every other aspect of the performance is excellent. They're nice and free rolling, they don't derail or anything, and they are perfect over points. No wobbling, nothing like that. Apart from the coupling up issue, the performance is excellent, so I've only docked it 1-star, generous as that may be. The quality, again, I've given it 4-star. It's really, really well built, this one. I didn't see any visible glue marks, despite quite a bit of complexity on the underframe. On the other hand though, the construction is mostly plastic with the exception of the wheels and that sort of thing, and I think there is a heavy weight inside, but plastic on the outside mostly. And I have noticed that the bodies tend to curl away from the chassis a little bit on the corners, which is noticeable up close, so I'm not going to give it 5-star, but again overall the quality is good. Value for money though, this is one aspect of the model that I cannot fault. At the full price, £29.95, I think given what you get here, that is very reasonable indeed. At the retailers though, for more like £25, this is excellent. I would say it is actually bargain territory. So easily 5-star, well worth it. The models are nice and modern, they're not dated, they're fresh tooling, they've got lots of different detail variations, nice and realistic, well built, and excellent looking too. So overall I would really recommend these, and they get an overall score of 8.61 out of 10, which is a grade B, not terribly far off from an A. So into the logbook they go, and they are in a well-deserved second place, just below the Bachmann R&R crane and way above Dapol's upgraded vans. Yeah, fantastic. This is all rolling stock needs to be. It doesn't need to be crazily complex. I think this model is the perfect balance between features and cost. I think Kerno have really done well with this one. Well, there you have it then folks, that is my review on the new Bloater fish vans, and yeah, they're really impressive, just like the Bully Booster was really from Kerno. So really pleased to see Kerno doing such a good job with these new models, not only making them more decent than some of the older ones, but making them more affordable too. That is really good to see. Anyway, do comment down below, let me know what you think about these vans. Have you tried any personally? Which version did you go for if so? And how did you find the couplings? I'd be interested to know if these coupling issues are more widespread. I suppose if they do cause you an issue, it's a relatively easy fix. I mean, you can pull these couplings out and put a different one in if you want from another brand. Obviously, you shouldn't have to do that, and that's no excuse whatsoever. But it's an easier fix than it would be if there was something wrong with the actual model. But anyway, your mileage may well vary. Please do comment down below and let me know. For now though, thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in picking one of these up, like I say, I do have affiliate links down in the description, so if you want to support the channel and pick one of these up, feel free to. But for now, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Another well done to EFE and Kerno. I'm liking this brand more and more as time goes on, which is good. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next. Lots of new tooled models seem to be coming our way from Kerno, and I feel like there's got to be more in the pipeline. So stay tuned, I suppose. If there are new announcements, you'll hear them here on the channel. But for now, thank you so much for watching once again, and I'll catch you on the next one. Alright, cheers folks, you take care.